Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to High Trust Coaching Live. I am Hope Mormon. I'm the Divisional President of High Trust Coaching, and I have with me our CEO and founder of High Trust, Todd Duncan. Good morning, Mr. Todd.
Good morning, Hope, and good morning, all of our High Trust members. Good to be with you on this fine Wednesday morning.
Yes, absolutely. We're so excited to have you, Todd. So thank you so much for making the time in your schedule. So today we're going to be going through and reviewing Todd's latest ebook, The 5 Irrefutable Principles of High Performance Mortgage Professionals and Real Estate Practices. And we're also going to do a deep dive on principle number 1. But before we do that, Todd, I just had to ask you this question as I was reviewing everything last night. And you are a New York Times bestselling author many times over. You have, presented many works of art, and you have provided the 5 principles, which is yet another amazing work of art, via ebook. What motivated you to make this available to everyone, and what motivated you to write the 5 principles?
So a couple things, Hope, and again, thanks for all the work you do to help High Trust Coaching be the resource and the platform that it has become. I think for me, if everybody can appreciate this for a moment, I closed just shy of 6,000 loans in 11 years. And one of the initial conversations I had when I was 23 was with a mentor of mine that basically kind of set up this thought that principles matter. Principles are laws of output, and there's principles that are just never ever to be altered. They are as true the day that they were birthed as they are the day they are first seen. And when I thought back to, what could we do in 2021 as the market transitions? What could we do to help lenders and their business partners, agents, builders, other business partners really engage in deep and unique and profound ways? What if I put out a piece of work that would speak to both of those groups and in a way that nobody could argue with the principles? So why 5? 5, because in interviewing over 10,000 high-performing realtors and lenders, these are the 5 that make the greatest hockey stick improvement in performance, profitability, productivity, impact. And you don't need more than 5. There might be 1,000 or 2,000 different ways you might execute one of the 5. Mm-hmm. But if you don't know the principle, the method is risky. If you know the principle, then the method has a high opportunity for return. So I started writing one day, Hope, and it kept flowing and it kept flowing and it kept flowing and kept flowing. And the reason I named it for High Performance Mortgage and Real Estate Practices is I think about 99% of lenders in America and about 99% of realtors in America do not have an appreciation for what a really principle-centered partnership looks like. So we did it. It's out, and it's a great gift, and I'm excited that everybody gets a chance to go through it. And so that's the motivation behind it.
Well, thank you, Todd. And and that's so very, very true. And as I was reading it the first time, it came to mind that it's not so much in the way that you do business; it's the principles. That if you stay focused on those principles and stay dialed into those, and that becomes your filter for everything, it actually kind of gets kind of easy.
It's simplified. It's absolutely simplified. Yeah. And I don't mean to sound a little bit curt here, but if you follow the 5 principles, you literally can take that to the bank.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the double entendre on why we even wrote it, that it is the platform through which and on which every person in mortgage and real estate can scale their volume, their value, their revenue, and their life experience in ways unimaginable. And so you just got to follow the principles. And it's so cool. It's like, okay, this is a principle. It's never going to change.
Yeah.
How do I apply it to my life?
How do I apply it to my life? Yeah, exactly. And, and speaking of that, I just have to mention, you talked about a loan originator, Jake, who had immersed himself over the last couple of years in these 5 principles. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, I want to make sure that everybody that's watching this understands that when we talk about money, we're not talking about money from a shallow kind of expectational point of view. I don't want anybody to ever think that I'm talking about making money from that position. What I'm actually doing is as far to the other side as you can go. And that is, how much money can you make in as little time as possible by executing an off the charts client experience and being efficient? And if you understand what I just said, we are trading every day, every minute, every second of our life. We are trading the gift of life force to a business, and we are working in that business. And when you start to understand that most people work in the business wrongly, I'm just going to say that as straight up as I can, wrongly, you can then begin to tie to them the opportunity cost that is lost. So in Jake Wade's experience, he came into the High Trust ecosystem, and the year that he came in was just 3 years ago. And in that year, he made $188,000.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that that's bad income. In fact, that is great income. But when he started getting exposed to the High Trust Sales Academy and the High Trust Today coaching platform, and working with me and sending me kind of goals that he had on how he was going to improve, it was magical, Hope, to see that year that he made $188,000, the following year, which would have been 2019, he made $418,000. And last year in 2020, he made $1,026,000 by October 1st. And you think about that, and he's just like you and me. He's just like any of our coaching members. He's a guy. He's a dad. He's a husband. You could be a gal and a mom and a wife. It doesn't matter. But what he decided to do was organize his business around the principles. And anybody watching this right now, I challenge you to say that would not be a good thing to get a $900,000 raise in 36 months. I don't think anybody would say, I don't want that. And he told me just 2 weeks ago that he is now taking Fridays off every weekend, and that he has scheduled a work week that is on average just about 11 hours less than it was last year. And he's forecast to make $1.8 million this year just by following these principles.
I love that. And, that's a measurement, right? Yeah. So the money and the income is a measurement in the same way that we measure our hourly rate at coaching, right? It is a measurement.
Well, yeah. And so when you think about earning money, you have to understand, everybody has to understand that you have to measure that in sound bites. And that's where most people don't really get, what does that mean? So let me be really clear with everybody. Principle number one. So there's 5 principles, right? You can download the ebook. You just go to toddduncan.com/coaching, scroll down a little bit. You'll see the resources there, and you'll see this ebook, and you can download the ebook. When you go through the 5 principles, they are founded upon each of the previous principles. So we have to start with one principle, and that principle is everything can be improved. Yes. That's the principle. And there's not a person, myself included, and everybody watching this, you can't argue with that. It is true. And no matter how good something is, it can also be improved. And so when you have the mindset of improvement, and you have the understanding that it is much easier to improve something a little bit consistently over time than it is to try to improve something a lot in a short period of time. And I think that's one of the things about the idea that everything can be improved that people need to get their heads around. We don't think enough in this business about the microseconds that aggregate up to an entire day. And I know that may sound like a really tough kind of grasp for a lot of people, but I always reflect back on that movie with The Pursuit of Happiness with Will Smith, and kind of profiling the career of Chris Gardner. And in that movie clip, there's a section where the role being played by Will Smith says, "I found out by not doing this that I saved 8 minutes a day." And you look at that and you go, 8 minutes a day for about 99% of the people. that are in business and many that may be watching this today, we don't think in those sound bites. We don't think that 8 minutes a day matters. And certainly if we get to 80 minutes a day that's wasted, you start to feel that. But the 80 minutes, ironically, comes from ignoring the 4 different things that are taking, 8 to 10 to 12 minutes. Mm-hmm. And so when you back away a little bit and you go, okay, everything can be improved.
Yes.
Then what you want to do is you want to say, okay, if 8 minutes a day, 5 days a week for 260 work days a year creates 41 hours of time. If I'm showing property as a real estate agent, if I'm listing property with a seller as a real estate agent, if I'm working with a borrower as a mortgage professional, however you want to look at it, 41 hours a month on the lending side is 80 borrower consultations. And so what are the 8-minute modules? What are the 5-minute allocations of time? And it's not so much that we want everybody to be obsessed with this, but the principle works both ways. Everything can be improved and everything ignored gets worse.
Yeah. And, Todd, one of the things that you talked about in that first principle is you talked about the idea of asking ourselves, why would I spend 3 hours showing a property when I can do it in 1? Why would I do a borrower consultation in 1 hour that I could do even better and maybe more proactively and productively in a half hour? So could you expound a little bit more about that?
Well, I think everybody needs to understand that if everything can get better, the question that you have to ask yourself, if 10 is world class, and you understand that if I'm at world class, I'm able to do things better and normally faster, where are you not at world class? And it's an okay, in fact, it's a mandate to have those kinds of honest conversations with yourself. If you're not good at something and you realize you're taking far too much time to do it, or even if you've gotten good at it, but it's not your highest and best use, you have to calculate the exchange between time and money. And the biggest exchange rate that we all have to get our heads around is our life into labor and our money out of that labor. And so the chief opportunity is to figure out, if I'm averaging 45 minutes in a borrower consultation, what would I have to do in 6 months to scale that down to 30? I mean, that's how the principle would work. We were able to, and these are days way past today, right? 25 years ago, we were able to actually save 17 minutes of borrower consultation by making sure that all the documentation was into our office at least 24 hours before we sat down with the borrowers, because we realized if we had every document we needed prior to that consultation, we didn't have to go through figuring out what documents weren't ready and which documents were, and spending that time doing that. Linda Davidson, who's one of our great friends and helps me every year with Sales Mastery, she originally took this idea and she said, I'm spending like 15 minutes every borrower consultation answering the same questions. The borrowers are different, but they all have the same questions.
Right.
And I said, how good are you at answering those questions? She said, I'm really good at it. And I said, well, how long does it take? And she said, 15 minutes of consultation. And I said, are the questions usually the same? And she said, yes. So then I said, why don't you do this? Hire a film crew, bring them in, answer all 10 of the questions in a highly valuable and well done video, send that video link out to the borrower before they come to the consultation so that all their questions are answered.
Right.
And it was like, woo, because now what she did is she ended up providing on average about 5 blocks of 15 minutes more per day, because she didn't have to do the things that she realized she could improve. And the borrower experience got better because they didn't have to worry about unanswered questions. And so she added 2 to 3 consultations a day, and 2 to 3 consultations a day is 10 to 15 a week. And that is 40 to 65 in a month. Talk about $1 million decision. So that's the mindset people have when they start thinking, I got to get better at. And the fixed thing is time, right? We're all familiar with the hourglass. The fixed thing is the time. You're never going to be able to change this. You've got to be able to excise out of that time the most important things. that allow you to improve the exchange rate. And the exchange rate is labor in, money out, period. And that's why I hope we have so much fun in coaching, measuring hourly rate.
I was just going to say that. Yeah. I was just going to say that.
If you want to talk about something that should be measured, you should measure hourly rate every time you get paid. And you should have the mindset every day that you're going through that is, here's my filter. Is what I'm doing, earning, and whatever your goal is, $1,000 an hour, $500 an hour. We got people in our elite group that are making $3,000 an hour. Whatever your goal is, it's, are you getting there because you're improving how you do things? And it's so interesting, Hope, that even the idea behind hourly rate can always be improved. Even if it's just by $1 in a 2-week period of time. I went from $500 to $501. Well, I'm improving. So it's so, and this principle is never going to go anywhere.
No.
The better you get at business, the better business gets for you. And that's the idea behind everything can be improved. Exactly. You can still apply this off the job too, right?
Right. Absolutely. And, I was talking to one of our master level coaching members last week, and we were moving into our second year of coaching. So we were redoing all his metrics, and we tracked his hourly rate for January. And in our coaching program, I can toggle between last year and this year. So I toggled, and I said, I think that I asked him, I said, do you know what your hourly rate was in January 2020? And he said no, and I told him, and then I told him, where we were today, January, same time next year, four times, Todd, and he did this in 2020, in a year of high volume and lower capacity and so on and so forth. He embraced this, and he was able to actually quadruple his annual his hourly rate in 1 year, and in a year that was probably one of the most challenging years in our career.
Yeah. And I think everybody, the big idea here, you guys, and the gift of this ebook to you, if you don't have it, is us to you saying there's a better way. That's the gift. Yes. And when you think about what Hope asked at the very start of our conversation, it really has to become a filter through which you run every observation. Ben Franklin said, the eyes of a master, will do more than both of his hands. Okay, so hands is labor, eyes is thinking and overseeing and observing. Okay. So far too often what mortgage professionals and real estate professionals and business professionals do is they put the labor in. They're working hard, but they're not working through the filter of, is this giving me the ROI I need? And whatever that labor is, am I doing it better and better? Or is my team doing it better and better? And it forces a very important question. And I want to say this, and I want to say it from a position of just fact. There's no ego in this. There's no pride in this. It's just because I had the good fortune of running into somebody when I was 23, brand new in the business, that talked to me about principles. Yes. So I had a real estate agent that I did business with, and the idea that everything could be improved was, I want to talk to 100% of our borrowers. Not the ones that are ready to go, not the ones that don't have a lender, not the ones that aren't pre-approved. I want to talk to all of them. I want to talk to 100% of our borrowers. And by having that construct put together, we were able to get 4 times more business from one agent versus going to 4 new agents to get 1/4 of the business each. And to put it in perspective, why would I work with 10 agents to close $2.5 million a month when I could work with 1 agent to close $2.5 million a month? And so what Debbie and I did for 3.5 years, I funded $72 million in volume with an average loan amount, of $81,000. And
wow.
No, seriously. And there's people today in 2021 that last year didn't close $25 million with 10 agents or 15. And the idea is, what if I got so clear on everything could be improved that I could do in 2 hours what most people take 8 hours to get done? Or instead of working for 30 years, what if I was so good at this, I got all those results in 12 and a half years. And that's the way that this article is set up for you guys to think through. And then the book version, which came alive in this kind of this interaction with the public, this is your playbook. If you follow these 5 principles for the rest of your life, I guarantee you your business is going to explode. Your joy is going to explode. Your bank accounts are going to explode. You're going to have, it's just mind blowing. It's mind blowing. And you hope you know this. When we watch our coaching members report new high watermarks on revenue per hour, it's ecstatic.
Yes, it is. It absolutely is. And the thing is that that entire year we were measuring it every month, and the needle was just moving. It's like you were talking about earlier, the $1. This kept moving and moving and moving, and to where we had lost sight of January 2020. We had lost sight of it. We were just moving forward, and then when we did a quick look back, we had quadrupled it.
Yeah.
And he did the work. He implemented. He dialed it in.
So based on that, let me just say this to everybody. I want you to own this. The reason why principle number 1 is everything can be improved is, to Hope's point, we have to keep our eye on the ball on what we're improving. And I'll give you an example that shows you the importance of this. So I'm a private pilot. If I'm going to fly 100 miles, and I realize that I've got a crosswind component, and I've got a challenge with my heading in terms of wind and things like that. If I lose my heading by a degree per mile, I am 100 degrees off of my final my destination, because I didn't make the changes as I went along. Okay. And we find out that at the end, if I don't make the changes faster, if I don't make the changes when they are smaller, it's so much easier to correct your heading in an airplane by 1 degree than it is 100 degrees. So you got to keep your eye on things. Otherwise, it can go south on you, which is where I find most mortgage and real estate people is they work so hard, and they get high fives for working so hard, but they're off course, or they fall into the vacuum that everybody fell into last year, which was just refis. And you and I both know we have coaching members that decided not to do refis, except if refis were for core clients, because they wanted to stay purposeful and on track. So anything can be improved. You could ask 80% less questions in a realtor interview and accelerate the performance of yes by 80%. It's not how many questions you ask. It's like, am I measuring which questions actually get somebody to smile and go, wow? That's the mindset behind this first principle.
Right. It's interesting. I was thinking about, your teaching points, and I was also thinking about the questions, Todd, that you ask, and that's one of the things that the ebook does is it tells you the why and the how and how to implement it. But then, Todd, you're giving us some questions to reflect on and to talk about and think about. And one of those questions at the end of principle number 1 is, do you have goals you want to attain but have not? Can you start walking us through a little bit so we can have a little bit of a takeaway from this session?
Well, it's an obvious question, hopefully. And the idea that, are there goals that you haven't attained? And the answer is going to be yes. I have goals right now that I've not attained. It doesn't mean I'm behind. It doesn't mean I'm off. It doesn't mean I've given up, just like it doesn't mean that for you. But there needs to be an understanding that pure labor to get something done is not smart. If I wanted to, by way of example, develop a more muscular physique, I can go into a gym, pay the monthly fee, and push as many weights as I can. But if I don't understand how lifting weights impacts the muscle groups that need to be impacted, and that there's even a better way to lift, if I don't understand that, then I'm going to be spending money, I'm going to be spending time, I'm going to be, quote, working out, but I'm not going to get my goal done because I'm not working out the right way. And I'm not an expert in bodybuilding, and that is certainly not the intent here. But I will tell you, as a guy that wants to be in the best shape of his life, I've got a trainer that tells me all the time, no, you need to do this way. You need to improve here, how you're doing that. Just by having your hands here instead of here, you're actually robbing that muscle group of about 50% of the impact the exercise could make. Mm-hmm. And so goals should be achieved, and goals that could be achieved more quickly should be achieved more quickly. Mm-hmm. Because why wait for a year to get done what you could get done in 2 months? You know, why spend 40 years doing loans when you could get rich in 10 years by following the principles? Mm-hmm. I mean, you guys do the math right now. If you closed 5,000 loans, close to 5,952 to be exact, how much would you make? And if you did that in 10 years, would you have options? I had an option. I had an option to not work anymore and go start a company to teach people how to do that. And I feel grateful for that. And we're still on it, which proves, Hope, these principles don't change.
Yes, exactly.
I closed my first loan in November of 1980, and the principles then are the principles today, but nobody has written about the principles. One of the reasons why the ebook got produced.
And you know, thank you so much for that. And it is, as I said in the beginning, it is a game changer for anybody who hasn't already downloaded the ebook. Please do yourself a favor, download the ebook, embrace it, and implement it into your business. If it's something, Todd, that we are working with all of our coaching members on right now. So what we're doing is we're dissecting one principle at a time. We're asking these questions. We're implementing those things that we can change, improve. Everything can be improved on that premise that everything can be improved. So I do encourage everyone to actually not only download the ebook, but call one of our coach consultants. They have a free coaching call. We'd love to have that conversation with you.
Well, it's super amazing when you think about what Hope just said. You know, the coaching faculty is organized around these 5 principles because the 5 principles are what changes whether you're an LO, a producing manager, a real estate broker, whatever, it changes your life experience. Mm-hmm. And I think what is super important about downloading this is I firmly believe that everything you would ever use in an attempt to be more successful is hinged at one point or more to each or one of the 5 principles. And I want to make a point here. So principle number 2 is success can only be built on failure. So principle number 1 is everything can be improved. Principle number 2 is success can only be built on failure. Do you see how those 2 principles are like symbiotic to each other? If something can be improved, then I got to do something I'm not yet doing. Whenever I do something I'm not yet doing, I do increase the risk of not doing that thing well. And so when we have the understanding, the identity that the principle number 1 involves risk, principle number 1 involves change, principle number 1 involves best practices, principle number 1 involves observation, it involves tracking, okay? And I'm going to go try something new to be better at it. I better embrace the idea that something new may not go beautifully. It may not work out like I kind of wanted. And so there's a really cool relationship between everything can be improved and my thirst and my appetite for risk only to prove how I do the thing right. And I wrote down before we got on today, I wrote down how you do something is important.
Yes.
How I land an airplane is important.
Yes.
How you make a call on a real estate agent is important. And how you do one thing is usually how you do everything. And so this ebook asks you to rise above. This ebook says there's 5 things you need to master. And if you master the 5 things, your life and business will be different than you have ever dreamed possible. And I say that with a ton of confidence. Now, here's where it gets really exciting. And I'll throw this out, Hope, and then you can.
Thank you.
But listen, download this book. And I think I never intend to criticize anybody, but I guess if I ask the question, how many of you feel you haven't done as good a job in the last 6 months connecting with your referral partners as you should have? And probably every hand is going to go up, right? So here's what I would do if I were you. I would download the ebook. I'd read it. I would send the toddduncan.com/coaching link to all 10 of your realtors, 5 of your realtors, 15 of your realtors. You know what I would do? I'd meet every week for 5 weeks on each of the 5 principles. And I'd sit down and say, okay, so based on this principle, Mr. Realtor, what can we do differently here? How can we collaborate to change the way we do this? Where does your business feel like it's a little bit off kilter? Imagine the value creation that you would have as a mortgage professional if you brought this gift to your key referral partners, whether they're agents or wealth managers, it doesn't matter. But imagine the value. And here's what's happening right now. Lenders still don't have their eye on the purchase business like they need to have it with regard to referral partnerships. Within about 2 or 3 months, there's not going to be as much time for you to be unique, because everybody that's doing loans is going to realize they've got to get back to purchase. Right now is the time for you to go hunt and track down the best agents in your marketplace. And we just finished some research on what percentage of borrowers who fund a purchase are using a lender that a realtor refers, and it's 56%. So at least 1 out of every 2 deals that happens in America is being referred by real estate agents. Even though homes are being found faster digitally, there's still lender referral that is actuating that. And man, I just think if you want to talk about everything can be improved, as well as I do, Hope, is every partnership that most people think they have with realtors and with business partners could be better.
Yes.
Period.
Yeah. I agree with you, Todd. And it is, I will tell you emphatically that it is top of mind with our coaching members, with our top producers and people. They are saying, they're really dialing in, what can we improve? What time can we improve? How can we systemize this and still deliver the experience? How can we do this? And it's the topic of the conversation these past months to make sure that we're better prepared and maybe a little bit more strategic about the business that we're going to be doing this year.
Well, and to do that, the smartest thing that anybody can do is answer the question, how am I being held accountable in the positive, best way, which is you have a coach. And if we stay on the flight example and being a pilot, just because I can fly a plane doesn't mean I don't have a coach. I go up at least once a month with a CFI, which is a certified flight instructor, to make sure that I'm doing everything right. You never want to stop being coached, because the purpose of a coach is to give you reflective feedback to help you energize and improve how you do the thing, whatever the thing is, right? And if you don't have a coach, then you can't as rapidly, predictably, and forcefully achieve a new behavior, which causes the everything can be improved to go up in your favor.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. And I think that when we get thank yous, it was the biggest thank you is thank you for keeping my eye on the ball. Thank you for making sure that I'm staying in the guardrails and staying focused. And they do the work, but I think that that's one of the biggest things that we do in coaching is helping everybody kind of stay focused on moving that needle.
Yeah, it's amazing. The world turns, and every second matters.
Yeah. Well, Todd, thank you so much. I've been so much looking forward to this morning and this session, and I hope you'll come back maybe next month and do it principle number 2.
Let's do it. And guys, download this ebook. It's free, 25 pages. It's your playbook for the year. You will not go wrong implementing each of the 5 ideas. And the greatest gift of value creation you can give to any of your business partners is get them to download the book as well.
Great. Thank you, Todd.
Cheers.